Ellen White's Vision of Heaven, a glimpse beyond the veil. Look, let me ask you something. Have you ever had that moment in life when you think, does everything I believe actually make sense? Like, you sit there in church, you sing the hymns, you read the Bible, you try to trust. But deep down, there's that tiny little doubt, the one you never confess to anyone. Here's the thing. Everyone who has faith has gone through this. Moments when you ask yourself, if God really exists, why doesn't He show something clearer? Just a little sign? And this is exactly where today's story connects to you in a way you might not expect. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about how faith works when we're emotionally broken. If you're someone who has felt your spirituality shake, if you've ever questioned your faith in silence, hit that subscribe button and leave a like if this video helps you. Because today, we're talking about one of the most astonishing spiritual experiences in modern Christian history. Ellen White's first vision of heaven, December 1844. But before you think this is just another old story, let me show you, psychologically, spiritually, and humanly, why this vision transformed thousands of lives, and why it might still transform yours. The story begins during one of the most emotionally devastating moments in American Christian history, the Great Disappointment. Imagine this with me. You spend years believing Jesus will return on a specific day. You sell everything. You abandon plans. You prepare your soul like never before. The date comes, and nothing happens. Now think with me, what happens inside a person's mind after that? Shame, guilt, doubt, fear, anxiety. And here's a psychological dynamic most people never notice. When a massive religious expectation collapses, the brain goes into emotional survival mode. It tries to protect itself from pain. Some people run away from faith. Others cling to whatever explanation they can find. And a very small group goes deeper. Ellen White. She was part of that tiny group who kept praying, even without understanding anything. She was just 17. Physically fragile. 6-inch childhood. Barely able to speak above a whisper. Emotionally marked by a childhood accident that left her weakened since age 9. Now here's what most people don't realize. People with high emotional vulnerability often experience stronger spiritual moments. This doesn't make them weak. It makes their minds more sensitive to transcendence. And this is where it gets really interesting. Even though Ellen was weak, she had a level of sincerity and spiritual intensity that's almost impossible to describe. While many abandoned faith, she kneeled in a small room in Portland, Maine, praying for answers. Oil lamps flickering. Winter wind hitting the windows. A heavy silence full of wounded hearts. It's a scene you've lived, just in your own version. When you pray, not because you understand, but because you desperately need an answer. And then, it happens. In the middle of a simple prayer, the room fades away. Ellen feels her body become light, her breath stop, a blinding light surrounding her. Suddenly she is above the world, as she described it. Now you might be thinking, Nick, couldn't this have just happened in her mind? Great question. Let's break it down. Deep spiritual experiences often involve temporary suppression of breathing, sensory disconnection, intense perception of light, a feeling of leaving the physical body. These markers appear in near-death experiences in ancient monastic writings, in Jewish mysticism, Christian mystics, Hindu ascetics, Sufi poetry, everywhere. The point is, whatever happened, the experience was real to her and too transformative to ignore. She sees a narrow path, glowing with light that came straight from God's throne. And this path leads directly to the New Jerusalem. Now, pay attention. At the moment when everyone thought everything was lost, the vision doesn't show an ending. It shows a path. Psychologically, this is huge. When a traumatized person encounters a symbol this powerful, a lit path, it triggers restored purpose, renewed hope, rebuilt spiritual identity. This is why the entire movement was revived. The narrow path wasn't just heavenly imagery. It mirrored the emotional journey of real believers. Some grow tired. Some stumble. Some look away and fall. But those who keep their eyes on Jesus, keep walking. And maybe that describes you more than you'd like to admit. Ellen hears voices so pure and harmonious that no human language could describe them. Why does this matter? Because during emotional collapse, the human brain searches for order, harmony, safety. The vision gave her exactly that. It's like when you're emotionally crushed, and one specific song suddenly gives you enough peace to breathe again. Except for Ellen, the music wasn't from earth. It was a spiritual restoration of beauty. She sees perfect gardens, glowing rivers, flowers that never die. Symbolic? Absolutely. When faith is shattered, the mind instinctively seeks images of life, renewal, stability. This matches every prophetic tradition, from Isaiah to Revelation, where paradise is described as the restoration of everything good. But the most powerful moment? She sees Jesus, alive, real, overflowing with love. And he tells her something that rewired the entire belief system of the Advent believers. My coming has not failed. My work continues in heaven. Psychologically, this was massive. Instead of interpreting the disappointment as a mistake, they now saw it as a transition. Here's what most people don't realize. An explanation that gives back meaning is more powerful than one that simply answers a question. Jesus wasn't absent. He was active, just in another phase of his work. When the vision ended, something astonishing happened. Ellen had not breathed during the entire experience. Everyone around her thought she was dead. But then she inhaled deeply and whispered, "Glory." Mystical experiences often produce deep inner peace, reduced fear of death, heightened mission, decreased anxiety, renewed purpose. And that's exactly what happened. That little, discouraged group found hope again. The vision gave them direction, clarity, courage, purpose. Ellen became one of the most influential spiritual voices of modern history. Not because she was strong, but precisely because she was fragile. And here's something you need to understand. God uses broken people, because broken people cling to grace more fiercely. Because maybe you're living your own version of the great disappointment. Maybe you thought God would do something, and he didn't. Maybe you prayed for an answer, and it never came. Maybe you're looking at your life thinking, I need a sign too. Here's what Ellen's story teaches you. Jesus' absence at the moment you expected does not mean the absence of his work. Sometimes God hasn't failed you. Sometimes he's just working in another room of heaven, and you're not seeing it yet. Ellen used to say, heaven is worth everything. And that's not just poetry. That's deep spiritual psychology. Being human means living between doubt and faith, between falling and hoping, between silence and prayer. But her story forces you to ask, what if you're closer to the lit path than you think? What if your faith is being rebuilt in the quiet? What if what feels like absence is actually preparation? If Ellen White's vision shows anything, it's that God doesn't leave anyone in the dark. Not her. Not the broken believers around her. Not you. So let me invite you. If this story touched you, if it reminded you why you believe, share this video with someone whose faith is fading. And leave a comment below saying, I'm still on the path. Because just like that small room in Portland, sometimes all you need to begin again is a single light, even a tiny one, shining on the way. My name is Nick, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay strong, and stay in the faith.